plant into dust, make bins bust. That's a really common saying for wheat, and seems like about every time it happens, it's true. Although normally I don't see hardly any dust in November when I've been planting, at least not for the next several years. So I'm pretty excited to see that dust blowing up behind that air seeder right there. You know, like I said, you know, a couple days ago, we got absolutely perfect planting conditions for wheat, and you know, really excited about the potential of the wheat crop. You know, I am nervous about the fact that it's late, but considering you know, the perfect planting conditions, I mean, this wheat crop ought to be off to a good start anyway. Wheat's got a long ways to go. A lot can happen, but you know, realistically though, my wheat's not going to be very much behind what most everybody else's wheat is. There's a lot of folks planting wheat, you know, right there around the middle of October. I mean, there was a lot of dust flying, but the thing is, it was so dry during that time that the wheat didn't germinate. There wasn't enough moisture for the wheat to germinate. So we got our first rain right there right before Halloween, so you know, at most my wheat's going to be about 2 weeks behind everybody else. You know, not too big of a difference there. So you know, that normal automatic yield penalty hit that I take every year for planting later than everybody else, not going to be as much this year. You know, we're all a lot more closer to being in the same boat this year. So anyway, our tank is just about empty. We're just finishing up this variety 25R40, and be filling up again here in about another 600 pounds. All right, this variety we're putting in here now is Pioneer 26R59. And it looks like our hopper just ran out. Need to go back there and swap to the front hopper on the truck. And anyway, the variety we had been planting was Pioneer 25R40, a variety that's not available anymore and hasn't been for several years. But it's far and away been the best variety I've ever planted. So I'm saving it. I'm saving it as long as I can. But this 26R59 is probably the second best variety I've ever planted. And you know, we've been saving this seed for probably about 5 years now, and we're going to do a test this year, because the common thinking is that you can only save seed so long before the yield starts falling off, either with cross-contamination or just seeds losing their vigor or germplasm or whatever you want to say. There's a bunch of different reasons, but anyway, about half of this variety that we're going to plant is going to be seed that I saved myself, and then we're going to finish up with some actual certified seed and going to kind of compare the yield differences, see if there's any kind of yield penalty for me constantly saving my seed year after year. Now, the certified seed is definitely going to be a whole lot more expensive. Probably going to be about twice the cost per acre is what my saved seed is, once I count for the price of wheat and the cost of getting it cleaned and everything. But the certified seed is probably going to run about twice the amount per acre. But anyway, this is going to be a pretty interesting test to let me know, you know, whether you know, I'm money ahead on saving seed, or whether I'm seeing any kind of yield hit or anything by saving seed for so long. And I know several of y'all out here watching are wheat growers too, so hopefully this information will be able to help y'all out in making management decisions in coming years also. All right, now this has a little bit smaller seed size, so you should get more seeds per pound, but it's got about a 6% lower germination rate. So we're going to increase our planting rate just a little bit to account for that. And then we got about 7,900 pounds in our tank. So this should give us, you know, the plants per acre that we need to make maximum yield for this time of the year. That should give us a planting rate of somewhere around 1.9 million seeds per acre. And when we count for that extra, you know, 5% loss from germination, you know, we'll be there around 1.8, a little bit higher, million seeds per acre. There's your sunset for tonight. Got another good looking one there. Been kind of cloudy all day. Clouds break just right as the sun sets. All right, we got this 60-acre farm done. Before we go across the road, we're going to top off with seed. I'm enough to get across the road done, so I ain't got to fold back up and come back over here, because every time I fold up, I got to go back out there and swap out my hydraulic hoses. So anyway, we running on along pretty dang good today. I finally got a chance to see what this drill will do when we're not having problems with it. And we're in some pretty nice big fields. Yeah, that was Andy just calling me. He's just getting wrapped up with the fertilizer. He needs about like another ton on the fertilizer bucket. He was calling for a second appraisal. He was FaceTiming me for a second opinion on whether that was a ton or not. In addition to variable rate the potash, we're putting out another kind of a big test plot this year. You know, the last couple of years I said that you know, my yields are down from what I expect because my wheat just ain't quite thick enough, and due to maybe possibly a lack of nitrogen or whatnot. So this year we got about 20 acres worth of nitrogen. We're going to put an extra 30 pounds of nitrogen on right now, plus I think 15 pounds of sulfur there. You know, for years, chicken litter has formed the base of our fertility and given us, you know, enough nitrogen to get wheat up and going. But this year, I'm going to try, in addition to what we're getting from the chicken litter, we're going to try putting on a little extra nitrogen, see if we can promote tillering, make it a little bit more aggressive, and see if it's going to be any thicker whenever we harvest. You know, 'cause I really don't know exactly how much nitrogen we're getting from the chicken litter. I know each ton's got about 67 pounds of nitrogen actually in it, but it's not all available on the front end. You know, it takes up to 3 years for all the nutrients in chicken litter to break down and become available, but it's always seemed like a ton and a half of chicken litter is giving us enough nitrogen until our first side dress application in January. But because this wheat's late, and the last 2 years I haven't been real pleased with how thick my wheat is, we're going to try 20 acres of extra nitrogen and just see what it looks like come harvest. You know, if the wheat looks visibly thicker and it's yielding more versus the other half of the farm that we didn't spread, then we might actually be on to something there. End of another long day. About 10:30. I think I'm about to call it quits for the day. We've gotten almost 110 acres done for the day. We got moved all the way up here to Madison County, and that's going to leave us with about 136 acres to do tomorrow. If we're going to get done tomorrow, it's definitely going to be another long day. Hopefully going to try and get a little bit earlier start tomorrow. We're not going to have to move equipment, fill tender trucks up, all that kind of stuff. I'm out of seed out here, and Helena's going to come grab the tender truck in the morning and get my last batch of seed treated and on there and get it moved to my last farm. I know it's dark out there, but can you see it? I'm starting to catch a glimpse of that light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting closer. About 3 more days in the field, and we ought to have everything wrapped up. And it can't come soon enough. I'm a walking zombie right now. I sure ain't as young as I used to. These long days sure run me down longer than what they did just a few short years ago. Father Time is absolutely relentless. And I know the average age of the viewer of this channel is over 50% of my viewers are over the age of 55. I know what y'all saying. I just wait another 10 years, wait another 15 years, and you don't know what it's like. And I don't. All I know is what I feel now, and I sure can't do what I did 10 years ago when I was 34 rather than 44. I tell you what, for the life of me, I can't understand how we're just not already done and farther ahead. I mean, we've had absolutely the most perfect fall weather-wise in my entire career. There's no comparison. I think we've been rained out a grand total of maybe 4 days since we started corn harvest in the middle of September, and here it is, you know, just a little over a week before Thanksgiving, and we're still racing to get done. You know, we're on the same track as what we've been the last couple years, but we haven't been rained out. I know we've had our difficulties, but every fall we have our difficulties. You know, they're just different. You know, we've had a couple of big breakdowns this year, and yeah, picking cotton took a lot longer than it should have because of, you know, the issues we had with the picker. Planting cover crops took a lot longer than it should have because of issues we had learning this drill and getting stuff worked out. But still, I don't know where the time's gone. Now granted, we did start harvest about a week and a half later than what we normally do, and it seems like everything is just really condensed together, and that might be the reason why. But you think only being rained out like 4 days the entire fall, you know, we ought to be pressure washing equipment and, you know, getting it ready to go under a shed, not racing to get the last of our wheat planted and soybeans cut. Although we are planting about 100 more acres of wheat this year than we did last year, so, you know, there's a day right there, but still. Also, guys, before I let y'all go today, I haven't mentioned it in a while, but don't forget about our online merch store. You want the shirts we wear, the hats we wear, coffee mugs, license plates, hoodies. You know, the weather's getting cold. You need your hoodies, you need your sweatshirts. We got several other things. Go to www.farmmerchbin.com. For the 3 ladies that watch our channel, you know, buy something for your husband. I'm sure he'd appreciate something from my online store. For all the men out there that watch the channel, show this clip to your wife. You know, go to www.farmmerchbin.com and pick you something up for Christmas. Really appreciate the support. Not only will you be supporting us, you'll be supporting another small, local, family-run business, the ones that actually make all the merchandise, take the orders, and ship it out. Well, anyway, guys, I'm going to pull up here at the service truck, fill this thing up with fuel, get it ready for tomorrow, and see y'all back here in the morning. Let's get finished planting this wheat.
Alright, well, I know I didn't video just a whole lot, almost nothing, of the fertilizer spreader, but we just got done spreading urea and potash, well, nitrogen and potash over all the cotton slash new wheat ground, winter wheat ground. We are switching gears now because Matt is planting all the wheat. I just spread all the fertilizer on it, and now we're going back with Roundup and Anthem Flex. Yeah, we're going back over all the wheat ground except for the ground that he doesn't think will be germinated fast enough before rain. And yeah, so we're gonna unfold here and start getting our booms primed and purged and ready, and pretend it hasn't been hibernating for the past 2 weeks. Alright, so our first step would be to change the rate. Actually, our first step is to idle it way down now that we're in the field. But our first step, we're doing 15 gallons an acre. No, 12 gallons. 12 gallons an acre. Okay. We have a full tank, 1025. Set up cotton. I'm not doing cotton anymore. We're doing wheat. Cotton defoliation for wheat burn down. Yeah. Wheat burn down. controller weight, tank mix. Okay. Put our field in here. Center farm. New work. Alright. It's that easy. I believe we're ready to see what she'll do. It looks as if they're all spraying. I see rainbows under all of them right now. So, whew. I don't really want to get all this all over me. Oh, we've got one that's not necessarily turning. With this one, I think it's just because it's turned sideways. Oh yeah, working like it ought to now. Oh yeah. These cotton fields look nice. They sure do look a lot nicer when there's cotton out here. John Deere sounds are just so pleasing. Good thing I'm not sponsored by this brown can, but they get me through most of my mornings. Unsalted night caramel is the flavor of the day.
Alright guys, last day of wheat planting. Let's get her done. 136 acres to go, and for the most part pretty big field, so we ought to be able to cover some ground today, kind of like we did on our last day of cotton picking. We ought to be able to really cover some ground. No more small fields, rough fields. Should be able to roll along 30 feet wide, 6 miles an hour, and really cover some ground. But unfortunately, it does not look like harvest is going to conclude this week. Check the weather. They got chances of rain coming in tomorrow afternoon. We got a couple things to fix on our combine. Yeah, we did get our combine back from the dealership, and I'll tell you exactly what went on with it whenever we get to combining some soybeans. But got a couple things to fix on it tomorrow morning if we get done with wheat today, and probably gonna get to the field, get started cutting, and probably gonna be rained out. Not calling for a lot of rain, but be enough to knock us out for a day, 2 days, whatever. So luckily this weekend looks good, so even though I was hoping to have this weekend off, we might have to finish up harvest this weekend. But you know, it is what it is. We'll get her done one way or another. Andy got done with fertilizer last night, got all the potash out, and got our little 20 acres of nitrogen test out. So today, him and Kelly are working on spraying behind where I've already planted. We're going back with Roundup and Anthem Flex. Anthem Flex has got Zidua in it, and it's actually a cheaper form of Zidua than buying the name brand Zidua. So going with that. However, due to the labels, the wheat needs to start germinating before we can spray it. Otherwise, if we get a rain to incorporate the Zidua into the ground before the seed swells up and starts germinating, it can really affect the germination process. So they're going to spray everything that I got planted through yesterday. But what I'm planting today, we're going to have to wait a few days because it's just too close to potentially incorporating rain to spray that Zidua on there. And definitely don't want to take any risk with hurting the final stand. So we'll come back another day after this rain and spray, you know, the last 140 acres or so. Anyway, just a few more days. That's all we like, just a few more days. All right, we just got done with this farm. About to head down the road and get our last farm done. All right, get these wings pinned up. You really got to reach over in there and get the pins in. There we go. All right, let me find a cool spot to put y'all. So you can watch this thing go down the road. How's that look there? And that right there, folks, was one of the great benefits you got to see firsthand of this air seeder, man. That narrow transport width. Didn't have to pull over on the side of the road one single time. I fit within my lane. People were able to pass me without any problems, and able to make quick work of getting down the road. And find out that, you know, this tractor handles this tongue weight on this drill a whole lot better than I ever thought it would. I've definitely gotten a lot more comfortable with this drill ever since we first started. Now, if I just had a bigger tractor with more hydraulic flow, I wouldn't have to do this swapping around every time I wanted to fold and unfold. Helena came and grabbed the truck this morning, got her filled up with seed, so we should have enough to get this wheat wrapped up. And they was also nice enough just to come over here and park it in the field for us, so we wouldn't have to move it all the way from the shop. All right, we just filled up another 7,900 pounds. And then we also changed from our saved 26R59 to our certified 26R59, and it's got about 750 more seeds per pound, so we can lower this seeding rate. We're gonna go from 175 down to 165, and if this thing's putting out correctly and I don't have too much overlap, that should have us with about 1,000 pounds of seed left in the tank when we got done drilling. So I'd rather be just a little on the light side and have some saved over rather than being on the heavy side and running short, because you know, I'm not going to buy another 2,500 pound bag of bulk seed to do a couple acres. So I'd rather have a little bit left in the tank and put it out on some ground as some cover crop, and you know, 165 pounds an acre still going to give us a little over 1.8 million seed per acre, which is what we want for this time of year.
All right, we got it reloaded and we're back at our farm here. So I'm gonna get out and check this tip real quick. I feel like a princess every time that step comes down. It's just so nice. Especially if you can catch the second or third one down. You don't even have to walk as far, it just lets you on down. All right, let's just look at it. It kind of looks like this got planted over. Well, our field row thing here is kind of not aiming at the fence row, but yeah, here's our problem. It was spraying, but it wasn't spraying all that she could, so that's all it needed. Must have got taken out by a tree limb or something. All the rest of them still look all right though. Well, it seems to be that I just speak too soon too often. I was going around the field or in rows here, and there's a fallen tree right in here somewhere. I can't really see it from over here. Oh, it's right there actually. And I was going on along there, and I lifted my boom up just enough to go over the top of the fallen tree stuff, and there was one booger branch that was sticking out just a little too far. Here it is. Yeah, it ain't nothing. I mean, and it got stuck in my boom here, and it got stuck like, well, right in here. So I got to the end so I wouldn't mess up the rate. I got to the end and shut my sprayer off, and this boom kept spraying, so I turned my pump off and got out, and it was showing that this is my R4 right side or something is not communicating right. So I get out and check, and it looks like, yeah, that stick did a lot more damage than you could ever imagine a stick doing. So, I mean, I could break this stick with 3 pinkies and be all right, but it can break probably a $2,000 sensor here. No, actually, I believe this is all good still. It's just this coupler here, and the mounting bracket right there. So we'll see what we can do, and that's all we can do. All right, well, the update for today on this is we are done spraying. We called around, we took the part off, everything's all right, and it is just the bracket that holds it on. It's just from this piece right here, well, from these bolts to here, and nobody around has one, but they can have one tomorrow morning first thing. So I guess that wrapped up the spraying for today. But last night I finished up with the fertilizer. Well, I finished spreading everywhere, but I still have around 150, 200 pounds or so left in the buggy. So we're going back to the center farm and set a constant rate of 50 pounds an acre, and hopefully that can cover the spots that we're asking for a lot of potash, because that's what we're spreading right now, is potash, by the way. Yeah, I'm gonna just set a constant rate of 50 pounds an acre and run it out over those spots, and then I'm gonna go back to the shop and get everything ready for the rest of the wheat beans to get out. So
I don't think we're going to get done today. I mean, we could get done if we were to work, probably pull close to an all-nighter, but the sprayer just tore up, had a spray valve fitting tear up. Nobody's got one. They can have one here tomorrow morning, so you know, Andy and Kelly gonna be spraying tomorrow, so not like we go cut beans anyway. Rain's supposed to be here probably afternoon, so rather than really pushing it today, we're just gonna get done what we can get done by a reasonable hour tonight, finish up in the morning while Andy and Kelly are spraying. Yeah, that broken fitting really put a kink in our plans, and it's kind of a special one. It's not one we can go get at an ag supply shop. It's got different flanges on it for the valve body to bolt up to and everything. So it's a specialty John Deere thing. But hopefully that rain will hold off long enough for them to at least get my first 2 to 3 days of wheat sprayed that I planted, because with these with the dry soils and reasonable temperatures, this stuff's probably going to be coming up pretty quick, and we need to get that Roundup out there before that wheat starts coming up. Otherwise, we're going to have a mess on our hands with a very potential expensive cleanup application of chemical. Well, you know, it took us a while, but we finally gotten comfortable with this Bourgualt CD872 air seeder behind us. You know, it took us a while to get the bugs worked out, and we're still working out a few here and there. Just like I just had to stop a few minutes ago because one of those singulating tubes, it didn't cause seed boot to block up, but in this residue, you see we got cotton residue on the ground, we got old cover crop residue on the ground, but anyway, you just kind of kicking it up, it kind of pinched it in between that singulating tube and the disc blade, and there's enough friction there that it locked the disc blade up. So I think that's something that Bourgault's really got to work on, is those singulating tubes. Either find some way to give them more clearance, a different design, some way to easily pull them out when you don't need them, because if I were going to use the singulating meters and tubes, I'd first have to take them all off and clean them out of dirt, because the openings are plugged up with dirt just because they're running down there close to the ground and there's nothing's going through them, they're not being used, so they're all plugged up with dirt. So really think that they need to do a different design on that. I like the principle, but there needs to be some way to either easily remove them or pull them up and lock them up out of the way, or flip them up or something like that. They got to do some redesigning on that. You know, ever since we got some of these bugs worked out, we're really able to cover some really good ground, especially like right now. We're in one of our bigger fields. It's a 60-acre field. You know, it's flat, smooth, 6 miles an hour, 30 feet wide. You know, we're really covering the acres. However, in a lot of our other ground, you know, it's just, we can get the job done, but it's just not as well suited. We're not really gaining anything in productivity over what I could do with my 20-foot box drill, because this thing's a lot heavier you know, going up some of our hills, you know, about 4 miles an hour is all I can get. And then some of our smaller fields, odd shaped fields, normally bigger equipment works better in our small shaped fields because it's less turning around. But with this thing, to do a good job seeding, you know, pulling into corners and then backing up into corners, making sure you get all of it planted. You know, this thing is kind of cumbersome, especially as long as it is on the rear end with that seed box sticking way out there. You know, it's not very maneuverable, whereas like my Kinsey planter or a wide combine header, you know, I can make quick work of these smaller fields. But with this thing, it's just not as nimble and able to fit in those tight areas. And my 20-foot drill, you know, I can zip into those small corners and do a real quick tight turn around, go the other way, you know, and it's just a little bit more efficient. But you know, when we get in our bigger fields, the thing is definitely a lot more efficient. And another thing I'm really limited by is, you know, my hydraulic capacity. You know, I had to shoot more hydraulic capacity to my fans to get a higher fan speed. Therefore, I don't have as much going to my openers. So every time I'm turning around, like right now when I'm going into my pass, I have to go real slow to give my openers time to not only go down to the ground, but build down pressure and get into the ground. And then I can kind of feel that tractor pulling down. That means they're in the ground good, and then I can kick it on up in speed. So, you know, if I had a bigger tractor with more hydraulic flow, I could definitely be covering the ground a little bit quicker too. You know, but after putting around 1,200 acres on this air seeder, you know, my overall impression is pretty favorable. I like the air seeder. It does need some tweaking in some areas. I do need bigger equipment to run it. But overall, it's putting the seed in the ground better than any other drill I've ever run. There's just some things about it. It's not quite as adapted to our area as it needs to be. And, you know, I've been in contact with Bourgualt expressing, you know, how I think some things need to be changed. And they've been very receptive to my concerns and ideas about how to change it. And I think we're going to see, I don't think we're going to see a redesign of this CD872, but I do think there's going to be some tweaking in some certain aspects to make it a lot more adaptable to our area. And as it is, if it didn't have the mid-row banders on there, which is really limited ground clearance, and making the air seeder longer, which further exacerbates the low ground clearance, and then also the air seeder attachments with the drop tubes and all the extra hoses and everything. If it weren't for those two things on there, I'd be a whole lot bigger fan of this air seeder than what I am. I mean, I'm not going to say it would be absolutely ideal, but it would be really close to ideal if we just take those two options off of here. You know, I don't need the air seeder part. I don't need the mid-row bander, the fertilizer attachment part, because right now, I mean, I don't have a tractor with a hydraulic capacity that's capable of running all of that. You know, I've got my own fertilizer buggy. I have no problem with putting my fertilizer out dry. And I've also got a very expensive planter with all precision planting parts on it that is going to do a better job, more accurate seed placement of corn, cotton, soybeans, all that kind of stuff than what this would either. So I definitely don't need the air planter attachment. Although, I mean, for some growers, that could definitely be a good option for them. It's just not really needed on our operation. However, I have been talking to Bourgualt. You know, they're kicking around the idea of me keeping this to next spring, maybe tweaking a few things on it this winter and getting us to try the air seeder part out next spring if they can, you know, work out a deal maybe to get a tractor down here with a hydraulic capacity to run it. You know, maybe trying it on just a little bit of cotton just as a proof of concept, and then also on some soybeans. So don't know if that's going to actually come to fruition or not, but we are talking about it, and you know, who knows, this thing might still be around here next spring and be able to test it out a little bit further for them. I don't know where that came from. Hey, you can see the blue skies over there, but it sure ain't looking very promising. This one's supposed to be here for about another 20 hours or so. you can go away. We don't want you right now. We still got a few more acres to get planted. Maybe it'll be just enough to kind of mess my windows up with the dust on them. Well, guys, I decided just to go ahead and almost get wheat planting done. We just got 2 acres left in this field and we'll be pretty much done. We still got 1 farm back at the shop. Got 12 acres split up into 4 different fields. It's about 10:30. We'll get it finished up in the morning, but we had a best day running yet. I got over 125 acres done. Anyway, we get done with that farm tomorrow. They'll have us at 496 acres of wheat for next year, about 80 acres more than what we had this year. So hopefully it'll all come up to a good start, blowing and going, and be ready for the winter coming up. I'll go ahead and end this video right here, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. About 2 more days of harvest, and we'll be putting the finishing touches on 2023, even though 2024 has already officially started. I'll see y'all back out at the combine.